Hello and welcome to the second of our 2022 Vitality T20 Blast preview shows in association with our friends at the Cricket Draft. My name is Aaron, aka the Cricket Connoisseur, and joining me first and foremost at the bottom of my screen is our resident Trinidadian cricket analyst, Mr. Dinesh Mahabir, aka Dino. And then on the left of my screen, again, our friend from the Cricket Draft themselves, is of course Mr. Skeptical Cricketer, Rory Law. So, chaps, first things first, thank you very much for joining me on the show today. Always a pleasure to get you on for a chat about all things T20 Blast cricket. And if I may just say so myself, and I think you two will agree, hasn't it been a fantastic start to the Blast in 2022? We saw the Roses match end in a tie. We saw Paul Sterling, I saw this in the flesh at Edgbaston, 119 on Bears' debut. Absolutely magnificent. And then Michael Hogan, out of absolutely nowhere, 5 for 18 at the Oval. It has been an absolutely scintillating start. And I'll tell you what, if this tournament continues in this fashion, we really are in for a lot of entertainment in 2022. And talking of great starts, before we get into our week overview, our analyst picks, and of course our analyst 11s for game week 2, we do just have to look at the leaderboard at the end of game week 1. Now, unfortunately for us three, it's neither of us. I mean, we did decently, as we'll get onto later on in today's show. But at the end of game week 1, at the top of the TCCP Cricket Draft Fantasy League table, we have got Brent Bentley, the Cooper Comet, 2,476 points. Absolutely marvellous. It should come as no surprise. Brent did have Paul Sterling as his captain, 1,094 points. Not bad at all. Lucky for some, eh? In game week 1. But yeah, Brent, congratulations. Very early days, but of course, to quote the old adage, start how you mean to continue. And that is a very, very good start indeed. But with game week 1 done and dusted, it's in the history books. It's been consigned to the chapters of the cricketing archives. We do, of course, look forward to game week 2. And Rory, I'll start with you first for this, mate, given that you are our resident expert from the Cricket Draft. Looking ahead to game week 2, what are the key stats, trends, patterns, pieces of news that we should be looking out for heading in to game week 2?
I think it's those teams with double fixtures coming up. Still the same thing. Massively keen on it. I was looking at Stephen Eskenazi after a really, really good knock at Radlett, but he's got 2 singles in a row. You start looking more towards teams like, I believe, Nottinghamshire have 2 in a row, Lancashire have 2 in a row. Those really strong North Division sides, and that's got to be a massive pattern. Also, for me, starting to look at trends on which grounds are scoring high, looking massive. I mean, Hampshire looked hard, so might not be too keen to get any Hampshire bats in the near future.
That's very, very interesting information. To be honest, Rory, and you mentioned about grounds. We can't mention grounds without having a look at Radlett. Very, very high scoring indeed, isn't it?
Extremely. Boundary looked rapid, and there was one tiny boundary, and the way they've set it up, I reckon they're not going to be able to make that boundary bigger for the game tomorrow. So could be some big runs in that Middlesex or Morgan game tomorrow.
We'll have to wait and see, won't we, Rory? We shall have to wait and see. Fingers crossed there are. Of course, that's what we want to see in the Blast. Big scoring, highly competitive games. Fingers crossed that does come to fruition. But aside from our week overview then, let's move on to my favourite segment of these shows, which is, of course, our Analyst Picks. So for those of you who did miss out on the opening show, basically, we've got 3 categories from which you can choose players for your Cricket Draft Fantasy team for Game Week 2. So first and foremost, we have the banker. This is your marquee name, your captain, to choose for this game week. Then we have the one to watch, which is a young player under the age of 25. And then the third and final one, save the best until last, the Wildcard. Under £100,000 in the game, this really is almost a rogue pick, but someone who could make a big difference to your team in 2022. So Dino, I'll start with you first for this segment, mate. Who is your banker for game week 2 in this year's Blast?
All right. Well, I've gone with Alex Hales this time around. He doubles this game week. I think his record in the recent past in T20 has been really good, exceptional, really. And he didn't really go in the first game. I mean, he got a start, right? He's there. But if this guy doubles, I just think the chance for him over 2 innings to come good is really is up there. So that's a guy I'm banking on. He's going to be my captain as well. I'm going with Alex Hales this game week.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dino, just looking at the stats on the screen, Alex Hales, 9,473 career T20 runs. Staggering career. Great player. Up the top of the order. Powerful, destructive, dynamic. Exactly what you want in a cricket draft banker in 2022. And Rory, what about yourself, mate? Who have you selected for game week 2 as your captain?
I can't really look past, I think, second most expensive player in the game, Liam Livingstone, showed signs of brilliance against Yorkshire, against probably, at that strength that they were, among the best teams there. Bowled fantastically, bowled really economically and tightly. Leg spin goes well at Old Trafford, but that batting, he's just got the potential to take the game away. And looking at that knock from Sterling, Livingstone's got that in his locker. How many batters do? So I've got to have him. I have to.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rory, I'm not going to disagree with that shout at all. Look at those stats, 4,570 career T20 runs, a 146 strike rate. Interesting as well, you mentioned about the spin bowling. I was watching the IPL the other day, and he actually had the 4th most amount of turn per delivery, 2.7 degrees. So again, at Old Trafford, a spin-conducive surface. Great shouts with the ball in hand as well. But moving on from our marquee names then, Dino, again, I'll once again pass over to you. Who's your one to watch ahead of game week 2?
This is the under 25 player that we're going with. Now, I know I saw a lot of the games because they're on YouTube, thankfully. So to see young Rian Ahmed, he's one that a lot of people are going to have. But my under 25 guy is going to be Smeed this time around, William Smeed. Now, I saw him play. For me, these guys, I'm just getting to see them for the first time, some of the guys. Smeed looks very raw, but you can see his intentions are there. I don't think he's necessarily the complete product right now, but I think with the way that he plays cricket over 2 games in that power play, I think, he's one to watch definitely for a young guy.
He most certainly is, Dino. Yep, 385 runs in last year's Blast. Somerset's leading run scorer, actually, in the competition. Had a good PSL as well for the Quetta Gladiators. Yeah, I rate that choice. I really do. And you mentioned Rian Ahmed. Again, a fantastic young player. Rory, I have a feeling that he might be your one to watch this week.
Yeah, he is, and I was between Rian Ahmed and Smeed, so it's somewhat ironic, really. I'm leaning Rian Ahmed because I thought he was absolutely brilliant game 1. I'm always a bit skeptical of your under 19 players coming into the kind of adult setup, but he looked really, really good. He's got a googly. He bowls those key middle overs where he's keeping the runs down, but I also thought he looked quite impressive with the bat. 2 sixes against Liam Travaskis, who's a very good white ball bowler. Looks like he can move his feet well, technically correct. And I think as a bowler, being able to bat could have quite a bit of extra value for me. So at that price, I couldn't really refuse it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the price, 61k. I have a feeling that price is going to increase quite significantly as Rehan does get underway in the T20 format. It was his debut, figures of 2 for 22 from 4 overs, a fantastic young prospect, to say the very least. And yes, he is in my team as well for this week, is Rian. And moving on then to our third and final category. I did say it was my favourite because I just love it. It's absolutely fantastic. We do, of course, have the Wildcard. Dino, who is your Wildcard heading into game week 2 of this year's T20 Blast?
The Wildcard is under 100k, right? We're going for a cheap guy in that sense, a value pick. And in this case, from what I've seen, I needed a bowler on my team. This week, it's going to be Sam Connors for me. He's 1% owned, right? But looking at the way he bowled to Paul Sterling in Sterling's second game, he had him in the power play. He took the risk. He had the short balls at Sterling. Sterling took it on, got caught on the boundary. That's what I like to see from opening bowlers in the power play. A guy who's organized and has a clear plan. His pace is up. He's got the short ball. This guy's ticking the boxes for me. He's had a good first-class season so far. This is the one I'm going with. And, of course, he doubles this game week. So Sam Connors is definitely it for me. Just under 100 at 93. He squeaks in, but I like this guy.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dino, it's a very, very interesting pick. And this is why I love this category. He's only ever played 7 career T20 matches. He did take 3 for 33 last night. He did bowl very well at the Incora grounds against the Bears. A 10.2 career T20 economy rate, though, which could be interesting. It could be a case of go big or go home with Sam Connors. It's a risk, but he is an excellent bowler. And again, Dino, I definitely do rate that shout heading into this game week. And Rory, again, I love your wildcard choices because it could be absolutely anyone, to be honest, in the game. Who have you selected for game week 2?
I've gone with one of my favourite T20 players this Blast, and I think possibly, in my mind, the most underrated player on the circuit, Aaron Lilly, Leicestershire man. I think there's an enormous amount of value when it comes to Aaron Lilly. He strikes at 150. Although he didn't necessarily get that many in game 1, potentially coming in a bit too early against the swinging ball with Paul Coughlin bowling, I think there's quite a lot of potential for him to go quite big over the next few weeks. Looking at the way that Leicestershire side's set up, he's going to be hitting sixes. He's going to be trying to hit the ball hard. And that kind of flat, darty spin could have quite a lot of value later on, particularly when it comes to economy. It can be quite tough to get away. So I think as an all-round package, for less than 100k, and someone who's got potential to absolutely go off and score a 50 off 20 balls, he's got to be a really, really strong asset.
Yeah, to be honest, Rory, I do like that shout. Obviously, as a fellow Aaron as well, always have to respect the Aaron Union. Obviously, he's got a different spelling to my name, but very, very good player indeed, Aaron Lilly. Funnily enough, his career T20 average is only around 20, but that strike rate, 150.05. Yeah, he could be a very, very interesting pick indeed. And talking of those picks then, now that we've got the marquee names, the one to watch, and the wildcard out of the way, let's take a look at each of our analysts' 11s. So, Dino, starting with yours, who have you selected for game week 2?
All right. Well, I've gone with, as you see there, it's on the screen. I've gone with Hales, Liff, Smeed, Milan, De Oliveira, Livingstone, Critchley, Salt, Ahmed, Connors, and Nija, another one in the Aaron group, right? So what that means is, in a nutshell, like I've gone for guys who double this game week. In fact, the only guy who doesn't double is De Oliveira, and I'm happy with that because of the role that he plays. So I've basically done Glenn Phillips to Salt, Bell Drummond to Smeed, Howell to Critchley, Can to Ahmed, and Mills to Connors, which are in most cases like for like, and it's just that guys doubled. So I have taken the 150 hit, right? So now I don't know what the gap was between Rory and I, but it's a bigger gap now. So you got some room. But yeah, no risk, no reward, right?
That is very, very true, Dino. You do have to take risks in life. To quote the SAS, who dares wins, and who knows, it may pay off for you in this week's game week. But Rory, passing over to you then, having seen Dino's 11, who did you select heading into this week's round of fixtures?
I've definitely, there's a few examples of me keeping some faith in my lineup. I've got my 3 batters are Phillips, Cobain, and Will Smeed. All-rounders, Livingston, Thompson, Lewis Rees, and Aaron Lilly. Tom Kohler-Cadmore with the gloves, and Harris Ralph, Calvin Harrison, and Rehan Ahmed with the ball.
I'll tell you what, Rory, that is a very, very strong-looking team indeed. Obviously, Ian Cobain hasn't quite found the form just yet, but I'll tell you what, with him, it's a matter of time, isn't it? He's always got these quick-fire 50s or 60s in the locker, and again, lots of power in particular at the top of that order. But gents, now that we've got the 11s out of the way, now that we've got our picks and we've got our overview out of the way, we do, of course, have to look at who actually finished top amongst us at the end of game week 1. So I'll ask you two first for your predictions. Who do you think came out on top between you two?
I'm going with Rory, just because I thought he had the players that he showed last time. Was it Lanning? I can't remember the players that he had, but I think that Rory pipped me. I'm just going to say it.
Well, Dino, you would be correct. It was very, very close, though. Rory, 1,411 points in game week 1. Dino, 1,392. There was just 19 points between you two in game week 1. I scored 1,630. So technically, I won.
You sounded quite happy about it.
Oh, my. Yeah. You just set us up there, Aaron. Oh.
Well played.
So technically, I won. But out of our analysts, our resident experts here on the cricket draft, Rory, you've taken a 1-0 lead. And with that 150-point deficits, could be 2-0 by the end of the second game week. only time will tell. We shall have to wait and see. Again, viewers, please do let us know, who do you think will come out on top in game week 2? Will it be the sceptical cricketer Rory Law? Will it be Dinesh Mahabir? We shall have to wait and see. But that is essentially it from us three here at the Counter Cricket Podcast for today's show. To each and every single one of you who's tuned into today's show, thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, guys, we'll see you on the next one.